Give a little of yourself. Cure your greed, purify your wealth. Look around and where you live. Look at all the good you have to give. Give a little of yourself. There's a hand somewhere to hold, a mouth to feed. There's so much that we can do for so many who are in need. Give our time, give our wealth, give our love, give ourselves. Know Allah sees each and every hidden deed. Give a little of yourself.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Fiqh of Zakah. Episodes, programs, information about the topic of Zakah. Previously, we spoke about the importance of this topic, why we need to learn it, how we have to implement it, and some of the important points of how to measure what Zakah is, and especially Nisab, which takes us to that point. I have with me today Sheikh Muhammad Salah, who's going to expand more. Jazakallah, Sheikh, for being with us today.
Wa jazak, Jamil. Jazakallahu khairan, and it's my pleasure.
Sheikh, just to recap slightly for our viewers here, and even for myself, previously we spoke about the Nisab of gold and silver. And you said a very poignant point. You spoke about the evidence that was involved and why some scholars, and you said the Jumhur, believe, especially when it comes to women's jewellery, that it shouldn't have any zakah on it, even if it goes beyond the nisab, because this is something that she adorns herself with. But you said, and the opinion that you follow, and the one that you recommended, was that Abu Hanifa, he does include this as something zakatable. So my question is to you, when it comes to Abu Hanifa's opinion, the other scholars say that if gold is used as an investment and increases, then it can be used as something to be zakatable, the term that we're using. Why does Abu Hanifa differ and use it like this, Sheikh?
Bismillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala nabiyhi wa Mustafa, Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Praise be to Allah, and may the best peace and blessings be upon His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. To answer your question, I would have to quote again the hadith which Imam Abu Hanifa relied on, the hadith of Aisha, al-Mu'mineen, and Asma bint Yazid, and Amr bin Shu'aib, when he narrated the two women who entered upon the Prophet ﷺ while wearing two bracelets of gold, and he said, you gotta pay zakah on it, or else Allah the Almighty will give you two bracelets of fire on the Day of Judgment. And in the case of Aisha, she was wearing silver rings, and he asked her whether she pays zakah on it or not. What really makes me feel more comfortable with this view, that the fiqh committees, whenever they discuss this mas'ala, they say it is safer to pay zakah on women's jewelry, even if she wears them on a regular basis. Why? Because of the general evidences of zakah. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, and whenever He said, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ, there is a due known designated right for the poor in the wealth of the rich, the believers. It does not specify that to exclude women's jewelry, for instance. So because of umum al-adillah, or the generality of evidences, this is what I feel comfortable with it, even though my shuyukh would go with the opinion of the vast majority of the scholars. But when I noticed, when I was examining and studying this mas'ala, that by the end they would say, yet it is better and safer with regards to your deen to pay zakah on that. But it is worth of mentioning here, if somebody said, I'm following the opinion of al-Jumhur, then it is valid 100%, and he or she is not blameworthy. I'm glad I said he or she, because that will take us to another thing, which is, what if somebody, a male, is wearing gold? We all understand this is haram and it's a major sin. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when he held two things, gold and silk, and says these two items are prohibited for the men of my ummah, and they are permissible for women. And when he saw one of his companions was wearing a gold ring, he took it off his finger, he threw it away and said, why would one of you tend to wear a burning coal around his finger or in his hand? So many indications that it is haram for men to wear gold or silk. Okay. What if somebody still wears a Rolex watch or a gold watch or? So it's haram. Does it mean because he's wearing something it is haram that it is not zakatable? No, it is zakatable. Same if a woman uses gold, which is not for her, as for instance, you visit some people, they have gold utensils, silver or gold utensils. This is haram. And it's haram to be used by men or women to drink in gold or silver glasses or eat with the spoons or forks or knives which were made of silver or gold. But in this case, there is a general consensus that is zakatable. But it's a woman who's using it according to the Jumhur. No, this is not jewelry. This is utilizing gold in something that is prohibited. So this wealth, if it attains the nisab by itself or in addition to other positions, it must be zakatable.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, I'm going to hold up on something else. Actually, I'm going to say to you, bravo, you've done well, because I asked in the last episode about the zakat of gold, and you gave an answer, I think $3,300. Well, you're right on it. I mean, I just checked the latest price. It's 85 grams of gold. It is approximately $3,300. And 595 grams of silver is approximately $1,010. So I've got a question for you, something you said before. And I think for me it was a bit confusing because, as usual, when we look at things, we're not really looking at them with an open scale. You said it's
well, I'm sorry, I didn't intend to confuse you.
No, you didn't confuse me, actually. It's just, I think, the limitations that we have sometimes. And I think this is why studying a topic like this for all of us is very important. You said it's better for the poor person, okay, that when we look at giving zakah, okay, we calculate it, especially in currency, we look at the value of silver, and we'll calculate, for example, the value of silver now would be $1,000. And that's the nisab of the amount of...
The value of 595 grams of silver.
And the 85 grams of
that
gold...
That is equivalent to 200 dirham of silver, the nisab. Right.
So then the gold, which is 85 grams, is of course 3,000, so the nisab would be more. So I said to you, well, 3,000 is more. Of course, that would benefit the poor. But you said, no, the 1,000, so explain yourself.
Because that would increase the area of those who pay zakah or must pay zakah.
So they increase the number of people, for example.
When we said the two commodities, gold and silver, are the main currencies in the past, and basically we go about by calculating our zakah even on today's wealth, paper money, cash, investment, stock, shares, all of that, through calculating against the nisab of gold or silver. We said, which one will we follow? We will follow the lowest value, the value of the lower. So silver normally is lower. So if this is the case, you just mentioned that the value of 995 grams of silver is how much? 1,000 plus. So that means every person who possesses 1,000 or perhaps $1,100 for one entire year, beyond their basic needs, must pay zakah on that. Versus if we go by gold, the value is $3,300. So many people who fall in short of the value of gold wouldn't have to pay zakah. That's why we consider what's more beneficial and useful for the poor. And as far as applauding my wild guesses, it's basically because we're around, or the month of Ramadan, it's just around the corner, and people, most people, like to pay their zakah during the month of Ramadan, which is a praiseworthy act, because the deeds, the reward for the deeds will be doubled and multiplied. But we have to remember one thing, that many people, whenever their zakah is due, a couple of months before Ramadan, they say, I'd like to postpone it so that I can pay it in Ramadan and earn the reward double and multiply. We say, no, sorry, you can't do that. Once it is due, you gotta pay it on its fixed time, and you should not postpone it. And if you would really like to pay it in Ramadan, you can pay it in advance.
That's right.
So this way, your hawl will be shorter, maybe 2-3 months. But once again, we have to focus and aim at the benefit of the poor, the maslahah of the faqir.
So there's 2 points here that you're saying. Firstly, on this point is that we follow the whole, the lunar year. You don't follow your desires. I want to pay in Ramadan, in Sha'ban, I want to pay in this month. And the second is, which I think is greater, is that that the way that you described, that more people will be paying zakah if we follow the system that's saying, because we're always thinking about the poor, not about the rich. Okay, I've got another point, which was don't rely on us for the calculations, but rather, again, let's stick to the measurements again, which were, again, Sheikh, if you can remind us, 85 grams for gold, and how much for silver?
595 grams of silver.
Okay, that's great. Jazakallah khair. All right, now that goes on to automatic. The next sort of topic, I think, would be, you spoke about currencies before in the previous episode, and you said, look, we change it, we do the exchange rates on the days. Now with currencies, things change, things fluctuate, things go up and down. I mean, how do we calculate really currencies? Is it that easy to do, Sheikh?
Whenever it is due to pay your zakah, you estimate approximately how much money you have, whether in saving or investment, stock shares, all of that. Then you translate that into or compare it versus the value of the nisab of, we agreed, the silver. If it exceeds that nisab or equals that nisab, then you must pay on it 2.5% once you complete or round up the hawl, the lunar year. And that will be done on regular basis every year. So if you have this in a saving account every year, you have, because I'm emphasizing this information because some people think that the zakah is due once per lifetime, particularly if your wealth is not increasing. One of the conditions of the mal or the wealth in order to be zakatable, so that you pay zakah on it, is an-nama, growth. Somebody would say, well, I'm not investing my money, I'm saving it towards my son's college education or my daughter's wedding, or I'm planning to go for Hajj 10 years from now, I'm saving up, but it attains the nisab. Even if it is not growing, because if this money is with somebody else, it is subject of growth. You're not investing in it. And that's why Umar ibn Khattab said, invest in the wealth of the orphan, lest the zakah will devour it. So whether you save it in a saving account and it is stagnant, or you're investing in it, it is zakatable once it attains the nisab.
Great. Okay, we're going to take a short break now, inshallah, and return in a couple of minutes on the fiqh of zakah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Give a little of yourself, cure your greed, purify your wealth.
Those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for those who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, for those who want to enter the Jannah, the paradise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for the believers. And that's why we need to learn and we need to get to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, so that we submit ourselves to the orders of Allah. And this is knowledge that we need to learn. Why we're spending more time to look into the verses and to the meanings of the verses in depth, so that we can get to learn from it what we need ourselves to be steadfast, to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to ponder over the meanings of the miraculous words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
We need to strive to know the ruling of the Sharia on a particular incident. Why scholars had to put a lot of effort trying to figure out how to give the ruling on such topics and issues. Islam tells you to look good, to smell good. The reason of the recession was the collaboration between insurance companies and the banks. Some scholars, though, stated that it is permissible for you to insure because you're compelled to do this by the government, by law, but you're not allowed to benefit from the insurance policy.
There's so much that we can do for so many who are in need. Give our time, give our wealth, give our love, give ourselves.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the Fiqh of Zakah. So just before the break there, Sheikh, you opened up some topics and mashallah you clarified for us and for me as well, Jazakallah khair, on this issue of especially currencies and understanding gold and silver for the poor. One of the questions that we get in Ask Huda, one of our main programs on questions, is I think I could say safely maybe 30% on zakah. And one of the questions people always ask is about rental properties. Somebody will give an example. They'll say, I own a property which I take the rent from yearly, but the rent doesn't come on the time of, like, for example, when my lunar year is, it comes at other times. What does somebody do when it comes to rent? How do they calculate the nisab on that, Shaykh?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. First of all, we have to distinguish between two things. Properties which are prepared for sale and investment, and properties which are intended to kira or rent. If somebody has a whole building and he's a landlord and is renting 10 flats, 20 more or less, then there is no zakah on the value of the building or the flats that he owns. The zakah will be on the earning which he collects from the rent of those properties if it attains the nisab, either by itself or in addition to other investment and saving. You're renting, for instance, a vehicle or a property, a shop or a flat. So the rent comes in, and I reinvested some in remodeling and construction, maintenance and all of that, and I paid my taxes and everything. Then before the hawl is over, I have the net profit, including the rent that I collected. Then this amount is zakatable. Zakah is compulsory on that when it is equivalent to the value of 595 grams of silver. Said the lower value, that is better for the poor because it adds up and it gives a greater number of zakah payers. So there is no zakah on the value of the property or the vehicle which you're renting. The zakah will be on the profit that you collect after the net profit, after you pay off your dues and taxes and remodeling and all of that.
So what about now the second part, the part you're speaking about, the person who's selling properties, for example. Somebody who has lots of properties and he holds on to them for several years, for example, and then he sells them 3-4 years later. What do we do with that kind of money?
Your question is very straightforward, but I would like to expand on it.
Excellent, please do.
To distinguish between two cases. One case is like myself, for instance. I'm not a merchant, I'm not a real estate agent, I'm not a relator, nor am I a landlord. So, but I moved to a bigger flat, and I have my old flat that I wanted to get rid of it so that I can collect the money and pay my installment for the new flat or whatever. Then this flat in this case is not an investment, nor is it a business. It is not urudu tijara. It is not a trade of goods. Okay? But the other case is a person whose main business is buying properties in order to either remodel them and resell them for a higher value, or just resell them, recycle them in the market so that he can make some profit. In this case, whatever he possesses, and he paid for it, and the hawl is due, and he maintained the nisab for an entire year, he calculates after estimating the value of each property that he put for sale in the market. He has 10 properties. Today's value is 10,000 for this, 100,000 for that. So he adds up all of that and he pays the zakah on the value of the properties, even though they are not sold yet, because this is business. So it could be the same property, but different intentions. My intention, I'm not a businessman. I'm just selling my flat so that I can move to a bigger one. In this case, I don't pay zakah on it unless if it is sold and I earn the money and it maintains its value, the nisab, for hawl, 1 lunar year. But this person, the businessman, the relator, the landlord, he's in business. He's selling properties all the time, and that's why he buys this land and this house and this vehicle. A car dealer is different than myself. I'm selling my old vehicle and I bought a new one. So I don't pay zakah on the vehicle which is for sale because I'm not a businessman. But somebody else who has a used car lot, he pays zakah on every car that he owns on the lot, because this is his money and he's making a profit out of that. How would he calculate that? Based on the estimate of today's value. I'm going to pay zakah today, and I have how many cars? 10, 15? Okay, I put this one on a retail sale for 15,000 and this one for 7,000 and so on. So I add up all of that and I pay the zakah on it 2.5%. That's called urudu tijara, or zakah on trade of goods.
So now we've gone into trade now, for example, from renting of properties. So let's look at in trade generally. You said cars, you said how. Does this principle go on all matters of trade, Sheikh?
Give me an example.
So
It is better.
Somebody has a bookshop, for example, and sells books. He has thousands of books,
Excellent.
a massive inventory of books.
Excellent.
So what does he do every year? Does he calculate the cost, and is it new books or old books, or is it just the trade, the property, or the asset he has?
You're the owner of the store, meaning everything in it is yours. Okay? Or there is certain part which is yours and it attained the nisab. And the value of the goods or the contents of the store, whether you're selling cheese or books or artwork or fabrics or gold and silver, it attains the nisab and you maintained it for 1 year, then it is zakatable. But the books are sitting there, I didn't sell them, or the goods are sitting there. Well, the day on which you owe the zakah, you make an estimate of your entire inventory and the retail sale price. You add it up and you pay 2.5% or rubu al-ushri, or 1/4 of 1/10 of the value of what you have for sale.
Okay, now a really good question comes up that I remember somebody asking me on one of our episodes once, and it wasn't a question of good in terms of it's something strange, good because it fits straight into what you're asking. We have an issue where many people buy properties, they'll buy gold, for example, even some people buy cars, and they're not really buying for investment, but they're buying it for example, the marriage of a daughter or son, or for example, they want to put their children through education. Again, how does this equate in this year?
This is called investment. You and your intention. The Prophet ﷺ said, deeds are bought by their intentions. As I said, it is the same flat, it is the same property, but what's your intention? I have some cash. Well, the cash value is always decreasing, and I heard now that the real estate value is going up. So I bought a property, I bought a flat. It's extra more than my need. I'm not living in it, and I'm not planning to move in it. Basically, I bought it in order to wait for the right time to sell it so that I can generate profit out of it. Then it is zakatable, because this is business. This is urudu tijara. It's a trade of goods. The flat or the car or whatever goods you bought has become trade of goods. Versus if you bought a flat for your son, he's now in high school, and inshallah you're waiting for his graduation so that he can get married. This is his flat. You give each one of your children a flat. It's not for business.
So this is not investment.
It's not zakatable. That's not investment. What's investment is what you bought with the intention of resale. That's your intention. طيب, let me expand on that. You bought a property and your intention was that you're going to build on it a house, then you kept it there for a year or years, then instead of building a house, you decided just to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So your intention has changed. When you sell it and you collect the cash becomes zakatable.
So that change in niyyah or that change in intention is a change of action on that person.
Exactly.
Okay, let's look into another area now. I mean, this is going slightly different, but it's still trade, Sheikh, and we've entered this topic, and that's when people trade or say, for example, in crops, in grain, in food stuff. How does this get involved? How do we start looking at the zakah for this?
Okay. First of all, let me give you the reference to the mandate of zakah on trade of goods,
Okay.
merchandise and goods that's prepared for sale. Samurah ibn Jundub, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that the Prophet ﷺ كان يأمرنا أن نخرج الصدقة من الذي نعده للبيع. He said, indeed, the Prophet ﷺ used to order us to pay zakah or to take out the zakah from merchandise or goods which we have prepared for sale. So my intention is business, trade, investment, resale. Then we must take the zakah out of that. With regards to plants, food, plants and fruits and so on, if we're talking about a person who is a farmer, that's a different category, and I guess we'll have to elaborate on that in an independent episode. But if you are a merchant who's selling in your hyper shop or in your big mall, selling variety of things, from soap to school supplies to fruits to all of that, on the day which you owe the zakah, you estimate the price, the retail price of every inventory that you have, and you pay 2.5% on that.
So just to recap, again, all of this is in order for one main reason, which is to help the poor. It's not about the trade person thinking, how can I safeguard my money? It's to always have this thinking about the poor. Isn't that true, Sheikh?
Number one, it aims towards helping the poor, enriching them. Number two, purifying your wealth and purifying your heart from miserliness and being cheap. And best of all is giving gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings that He has bestowed upon us.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Muhammad, for all your advice today. Again, another excellent episode, I believe, on understanding the zakah, the importance of it, how to implement it. I hope you join me next time on the Fiqh of Zakah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Give a little of yourself. Cure your greed. Purify your wealth. Look around at where you live. Look at all the good you have to give. Give a little of yourself. There's a hand somewhere to hold, a mouth to feed. There's so much that we can do for so many who are in need. Give our time, give our wealth, give our love, give ourselves. Know Allah sees each and every hidden deed.